What's life like after you've been incarcerated? What's your next step in becoming more productive? Coming up in our next installment of America's Hope, we focus on hope for prisoners, an incredible story about going from incarceration to liberation. That's next on America's Hope. Good evening, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope, and I do hope that wherever you are, that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. We're coming to you tonight from the city of Las Vegas, the city that never sleeps. Some people know it as Sin City, but millions of people come to Las Vegas from around the world for entertainment. Well, tonight we're going to show you that there are some people living and working here who find inspiration through the power of hope. You know, there is a saying that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Tonight, we're going to explain to you why the program Hope for Prisoners should not be something that stays in Vegas, but is heard around the world as it helps each person improve their lives, one person at a time, from incarceration to liberation. That's our subject tonight on America's Hope, Hope for Prisoners. Let's get started. So I'm joining you from Hope for Prisoners, which is headquartered in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's an incredible program with some outstanding results that have cut down recidivism. And here with me now is the founder, Jon Ponder. Jon, good to have you on America's
Man,
Hope.
it's good to be here. It's good to see you.
Man, I'm telling you, this is amazing to actually come here. You know, I've been to Las Vegas before to visit your program when you've had events. But to actually come here to see what has transpired since you launched Hope for Prisoners. Talk to me about everything that you do here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, welcome to our headquarters, right?
Good.
So our organization, we work with men, women, and young adults that are exiting different arenas of our judicial system. And what we do is to provide the supportive services to help the men and women that are coming home to successfully reintegrate back into their home, back into the workplace, and ultimately for them to be reacclimated back into our community.
Tell me why that is so important, because in America, we incarcerate more people than any other nation in the world, yet we still have a proliferation of crime, unfortunately. Sure. We have mass shootings, we have all kinds of complex situations within the criminal behavior of people. Mm-hmm. So explain to me why Hope for Prisoners is so important with what you do to men and women who are incarcerated.
Right. So first of all, our organization, we're in 7 institutions here in the state of Nevada. And what it is that we do is we get into the prison system and we begin to work with them up to 18 months prior to them being released. Because if you look across our nation, 85% of the people that are currently in our prison system are one day going to be returning back to the community. So we have to make sure that we make every effort to make sure that they're going to be stand-up leaders in the community, contributing to the community, so that they can be a success and not a burden to our, a burden to the taxpayers in the community.
So when they leave Hope for Prisoners, they're prepared to become productive citizens.
Absolutely.
How does that happen?
Yeah. So, one of the things that we found when dealing with this segment of the population, and I speak from my own personal experience, the guy who was coming out of the system since forever, the one thing that we found is that the vast majority of people from this segment of the population, they really do want to change. They have no idea how to do it. So for so long, we've been telling people from this segment of the population, go ahead and pay your debts to society and get back out in the community and become a productive member of society. They have no idea what that might look like. So what it is that we do is we train and equip them, not only in things that are going to help them to get a good job, or more importantly, be able to maintain that job, but our goal is to come alongside them to lay down the foundation to help them to build up this brand new life to where they never, ever, ever reoffend again.
Now, in doing that, the way you're talking about it sounds like it's an easy operation.
Right.
It can't be that easy
Right.
to change the mindset
Right.
of someone who's been exposed to criminal activity and may have fallen into that entrapment of believing that's the only way they can survive.
Right.
So it sounds to me like you have to unpack all of that and put something new in there where they can actually dream again and see themselves doing something great and good.
Absolutely. You know, there's years of things that need to be unpacked, right? A lot of it is unresolved trauma, so you need to unpack that. There is criminal thinking, right? There's generations of gang affiliations, generations of drug abuse. So when we get in there early on to help them to be able to unpack those things and then put some coping mechanisms in place to help them to process those things when they rear their ugly head.
So those coping mechanisms, that training, what's the substance of that and you begin to see the change taking place?
Right. You know, we approach it from a faith standpoint to make sure that we can share biblical principles with people so that they are grounded, number one, in the Word of God. And then that gives us an opportunity to be able to expose them to other things, right? Like take, for instance, one of the strong emphasis that we put is working with men, although we do work with women, but our strong emphasis is working with men because I'm a firm believer is that if you can get a man to take his rightful position in his home as the husband and father that God created him to be, then that's going to impact his family.
So let me get this straight then. You provide a safe haven within the prisons that you work with, a safe haven for those men and women who are incarcerated to talk about their failures, to expose their weaknesses, and find strength, and you do it based on the Bible?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, I tip my hat to Nevada Department of Corrections and this current governor that we do have and the director of corrections, because when we go inside there, we have to think outside the box. We cannot do prison the way that we've traditionally done prison. You have to be able to create an environment where it's going to stimulate people to learn and to grow and be able to change.
Why isn't the world catching on to this since it's working?
Right. You know what? They will shortly, right? Again, I think that if you were to ask me 15, 20 years ago, when I was in my mess coming in and out of the system, will we be doing what we are doing today? I think that we're living in a different world. I think that they're coming to the realization that the way that we've done prison before has not been working. If you take a look at the recidivism rate continuing to climb through the roof and people getting back out in the community and reoffending, when they reoffend is causing future victimization in the community. And I think that all of that, you couple all that together, then people are really starting to open up their eyes to the potential of people coming home and being able to change. You know, we're one of the reasons why we're sitting on more jobs than we can fill, and they're sustainable wage jobs, because we help people to see that this is an untapped resource of people. And when we train and equip them to get back out in the community, in those workplaces, and go above and beyond the call of duty, I think that, you know, people are starting to really raise their eyebrows.
I'm talking to Jon Ponder. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Jon about the mess and things that he was even exposed to, which actually gave you the fuel to see the change in your life and thereby changing others.
Absolutely.
Back with more of America's Hope in just a moment. Welcome back to America's Hope. I'm Kelly Wright, and I'm in Las Vegas at the headquarters for Hope for Prisoners, and I'm talking to my good friend Jon Ponder. Jon, you created this and founded this organization, Hope for Prisoners, but it didn't come without some experiences that you had that put you into messed up environments.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Right. You know, I grew up in the product of a single parent home. You know, dad left home at a very early age, right? Leaving my mom to raise 5 knucklehead boys and 1 knucklehead girl, all by herself, right? And I think that, yeah, and growing up in that kind of environment, my story is not much different than stories that happen in other urban communities. Growing up without that father in the home, we turned to the streets at a very early age to kind of validate masculinity. And for me, the streets led me to the drugs led me to the gangs led me to criminal activity, and that criminal activity led me to my very first set of handcuffs at the tender age of 12 years old. And life just kind of spiraled out of control from there. So I have been in and out of different juvenile systems in the state of New York, different jails, prisons in the state of New York. I relocated here to the state of Nevada back in 1989, trying to escape, the heat of the kitchen, but I went from the frying pan smack dab into the middle of the fire. So different county jails and states prisons here in the state of Nevada, but then I got stretched out in a maximum security United States federal penitentiary behind 50-foot walls. So coming in and out of the system all that time, I made a whole lot of mistakes trying to get life right? And I would violate and I go back to prison. But there came a time on that journey where I learned tremendously valuable lessons from all those mistakes that I made. And those lessons that I learned, Kelly, they helped me to live life on a whole nother level. So what my passion in life has become, the reason why I know that my God wakes me up every morning is to turn right back around and help those other men and women who were in bondage to the same exact things that I was in bondage to do everything I can to remove those barriers and to help to escort them up to the next level of life.
Wow. Wow, let's talk about that, because in having that turnaround, you didn't do it by yourself.
Right.
You had people helping you.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about those people who said, I see something in you and Jon, and I want to help you help yourself.
Right. Well, my greatest helper came early on as I stood in the federal courthouse down here on Las Vegas Boulevard. And I'm shackled by my hands and my feet, and I'm about to go before this judge, and he has the potential of making me do the next 23 years of my life in prison. Oh my God. And I stood in that prison cell, and I had a chance to reflect, and I took a look back over the last 37 years of my life, and I realized that not only have I never accomplished anything of great significance, but looking back, I saw that I left a path of destruction. I destroyed lives of people who I professed with my mouth that I loved them, right? But it was in that moment where I came to the end of myself. And I asked God, I played Let's Make a Deal with God when I was inside that prison cell, right? And I said something to the terms of, God, I know that you're real, right? But let's make a deal. What I want you to do is go before me inside that courtroom, and I want you to move the judge out of the way. And I asked God to climb into the robe of that judge, that black robe, and I asked him to let you be my judge, right? And whatever time that I got coming to me, God, let it come from you. And whatever time that is, I asked him to search the meditation of my heart. Whatever time that is, if it's going to come from you, I said, I'm going to spend the rest of this natural life serving you. And then I stepped up into this courtroom, and unmistakably, I stepped up into the presence of God when I walked up in that room. And the judge, who was my dear friend to this day, I can remember on that day, he leaned back in that chair after I finished talking, and he took his glasses off and he said to me, Mr. Ponder, I have sat on this bench for 17 and a half years. I have never heard anybody say what you said you were going to say, because I would tell them all these different things they're going to do when I go to prison. But then he said something to me that literally changed my life, the federal judge. He said to me that when you go to prison, right? Because I'm not getting out of anything. When you go to prison, if you do half of what it is you say you're going to do, you're going to walk out that prison a transformed man. And that kind of stuck deep into my spirit. But then he said something to me that has marked my life from that day. He said to me, I don't know why I'm going to do this. But he says, I'm not going to give you what you deserve. And I started smiling, because that was evidence that my Father showed up, because he sent his Son that I might not get what I deserve.
Wow. 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 So what did you get?
I wound up getting just a little under 6 years. So instead of getting 23 years, I wound up getting just a little under 6 years. Now listen, I still got to go to maximum security United States Federal Penitentiary, but I remember after I had received the sentence, the U.S. Marshals was escorting me back to the little holding cell, and I heard one of them say, I don't know what happened in there. And I said, I do. I know my father showed up.
Your father meaning God.
But my father, meaning God, has shown up. And I went in that tiny little cell, shackled by my hands and my feet. It was stainless steel, and I fell down on my face, and I just started thanking God. I didn't get 23 years. And I'm saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I heard God whisper to me in that moment, my son, I honored what you asked me to do, to go into court before me. I honored what you asked me to do. And he said, never forget the promise that you made to me, that I was going to spend the rest of this life serving you. And Kelly, I got up off that floor and my life went in a 180-degree turn in the other direction, and I never looked back. Used every waking moment of my time in prison. Number one, I'm trying to get to know who this God is that I just surrendered my life to. And I wanted to learn extremely valuable lessons from all those lifetimes of mistakes that I made. And I wanted to arm myself against those things never ever happening again, so that one day I'd be ready to get back to the business of life. And the more and more I learned about this God that I surrendered my life to, the more and more I began to understand about me. That I am who my God says I am, that I'm not the name that the streets gave me. I'm not the name that the gang thought I was. I'm not even the name those girls thought I was. I am who my God says that I am, and I can do everything that my God says that I can do.
John, it's amazing. What you're talking about is amazing grace. Now, in addition to that, I understand that one of your arresting officers helped mentor you.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk to me about that, because your arresting officer turns around, becomes one of your good friends,
right,
just like the judge did.
Yes, absolutely. And he wasn't just the arresting officer. This was the FBI agent on my case, right? Who, when I came home from prison, I remember I was in the federal halfway house, and I came home from prison, and he was there, and they called me up front. And I go up front, and here it is, this FBI agent. His name is Richard Beasley. And he said to me, hey, John, listen, just want to welcome you home and everything like that. And then he leaned into me and said, hey, I want to let you know that my wife and I have been praying for you.
This is an FBI
This
agent.
was the FBI agent. I had no idea at the time when he had taken me into custody that he had a relationship with Jesus. I had no idea at the time that the judge who sentenced me had a relationship with Jesus. And standing in that federal halfway house, when the minute that he said to me that my wife and I have been praying to you, it's like life just went completely full circle.
Wow, so you two brokered a friendship and a bond, as well as the judge.
Yes.
And then you realized that you needed to do more. So you launched Hope for Prisoners?
Launched Hope for Prisoners. I actually launched Hope for Prisoners while I was inside prison. I spent every waking moment of my time trying to relearn, understanding why Jon Ponder did what Jon Ponder did. I dug into the psychology of why people do what people do. And Kelly, I had learned so well, it got so good, I wanted to turn right back around and help other people with those human behavior issues. And I tell people that it was in that moment that God impregnated me with Hope for Prisoners, so that I could turn right back around and help the other men and women who were struggling with the same things I was struggling with.
John, I can't help but say that's an incredible, remarkable, amazing story.
Yeah.
I want to hear more. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about how your story even reached the White House and
Yes.
what happened after that. Back
Sure.
with more in just a moment. So welcome back to America's Hope. I'm in Las Vegas at the headquarters of Hope for Prisoners. And for anybody watching this story, they have to be riveted by what you've unpacked about the life of Jon Ponder. John, I've known you for years, but to sit here and talk to you in person again about your life, it just hits me about how America needs this kind of hope and this elevation of faith and love for God, for self, for country, because we have such a problem within our society right now. And I believe that what you've unpacked and what you've founded and started is part of the solution. And I think you would have to agree with me based on the evidence
Sure.
of people having their lives transformed through Hope for Prisoners.
Oh, absolutely, right? This is our model that we have built up. It's working. We have one of the highest success rates literally in the country for not only people not being going back to prison system, but we do everything we can to help that person live levels of life that most people only dream of. God is no respecter of person. I came out of that, and I think that I've done a pretty good job in getting my life right back on track. But to be able to turn around and help someone else achieve that same level of success, that's what it is that we're looking to do.
Well, let's talk about, in addition to the success that you've achieved for others, the program became so successful that you were recognized by the President of the United States at that time, President Donald Trump.
Yes.
And then you and your wife were invited to the White House for a very special occasion. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was amazing. They tricked me to get me out there. They told me I was going out there for something else. They wanted me to speak. So my wife and the FBI agent, Richard Beasy, my dear friend, had come along, and unbeknownst to me, they were giving me a presidential pardon.
Grant Jon, I'm not sure you know this, a full pardon.
Right. So on that day, I got the full presidential pardon, and it was probably one of the most joyous moments of my entire life. Right. It was a moment where God had revealed to me that things had just become, full circle. Right. That all the hard work that we had put in, it was number one recognized, and it was, like I said, it was incredible. The most incredible thing about that presidential pardon, that day that President Trump did that, it was two things, right? The first thing is when I flew back home to Nevada after leaving Washington D.C., I walked into my house, and my little girls was in the living room because they were back home with Grandma. And they were telling me how proud they were that, Daddy, we just saw you on TV with the President of the United States. And man, it was just, my cup was running over, right? So I had taken like a week off from that. And I finally got back to the headquarters. And when I walked in, it was mail piled up from floor to ceiling. And the mail came from inmates from all over the world, saying that they saw what happened on TV. They see that President Trump had given me a pardon, and they talked about how proud they were. And these are people that I was incarcerated with, and said how proud they were. But then they get to the end of it, and they said, "You give us hope." Stick a fork in me, I'm done.
It still hits you, doesn't
Oh, it does.
I can feel the emotion.
Yeah.
And I watched that live, and I had the honor of interviewing you.
Yep.
The day of,
Uh-huh.
and then I was just struck by the sincerity of that moment
Yes.
when the president did that,
Yes.
and he talked to you. What do you recall him saying to you?
Man, I think that he was saying things like he was very proud of the work that we were doing. I think that one of the things for me that stood out for President Trump, because I had interacted with him prior to that. I was invited out to the National Day of Prayer, and he told my testimony at the National Day of Prayer. Millions of people watching, and I just remember him saying that that the transformative power of prayer and Jesus working in someone's life really works, right? So that had always resonated with me. But him just saying, how proud he was, keep up the good work and so forth and so on, and that your model needs to be replicated all across the country, and yeah.
And that's being done.
Yes, absolutely.
So Jon, let's get away from the the politics and the and the presidential pardon, let's talk about the changed man, the transformed man, Jon Ponder, because you get out of prison, and then you meet this beautiful woman who
Yes.
becomes your wife,
Right.
and now you're a husband, a father. What happened?
You know what it is, right? And I'm a very, very blessed man. My wife is God's gift to me, right? This is the woman that God created me for. I'm the father of some incredibly beautiful kids. And, I think that what happened is I began to seek out God, number one, right? And when I began to come into my relationship with God, and begin to walk this walk for this purpose for which He created me, then life just all started coming together, living out that purpose.
So you abandoned the culture of prison life and criminal life and got transformed.
Yes.
By the renewing of your mind.
Absolutely.
Through your faith in God.
Absolutely, 100%. And those prison clothes that I was once wearing, right? When I walked out that gate, the Bible says to put on the Lord Jesus Christ. And I now have the mind of Christ. I seek after the mind of Christ.
Yeah, I think it also says put on love.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
So when you look in the mirror, what do you see a reflection of? Considering what you've been through,
Right.
gone through, and now when you look at yourself
Right.
in the mirror.
In answering that question, right, what do I see now? I have to tell the truth and say there was a time in my life where I could not stand the man in the mirror, right? Because I had no idea who I was, right? I grew up wearing this mask. I had become to everybody in the world around me who it was I thought they wanted to see. It wasn't even me. But when God began to reveal to me the real me and gave me permission to peel that mask off, and I began to start walking into the newness of who it was that He created me to be, I look in the mirror right now these days, Kelly, and don't take this the wrong way, I am madly in love with Jon Ponder. I am madly in love with me, right?
Because that means you're madly in love with the very people you help.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because you can look beyond their faults, see their needs.
100%, yes.
And we want to talk more about that in terms of the vocational help you provide them
Yes,
with.
yes.
And how you show up for them, or how you help them to show up for each other.
Right,
And
absolutely.
how that mentoring program between arresting officers and the people inside, and how that breaking bread together
Absolutely.
is transformative.
Yes.
Back with more of Jon Ponder in just a moment. Welcome back to America's Hope. I'm talking to my good friend Jon Ponder, who is the founder of Hope for Prisoners. How long has this been going on now?
Yeah, so we broke ground. I was released from prison back in 2009. So late 2010, we hit the ground running, started digging trenches in the community, trying to put this thing together, and we never looked back from there.
Yeah, and you're still growing.
Oh, absolutely, leaps
you're
and
in other
bounds.
states as well now.
Yes, yeah.
So talk to me about your heart for these, for the men and women who have gone through trouble. They've been to hell and back. They're still incarcerated. They have to do their time.
Mm-hmm.
They're separated from their families. Yet they're having their lives transformed.
Absolutely.
How do you do that beyond the faith aspect?
Yep.
What do you do from a vocational standpoint to prepare them for jobs
Right.
when they come out?
Right. And as I was saying earlier, the model that I'm really super excited about is we work with them up to 18 months prior to them being released. And during that first 12 months, we really go in and we train them intensively, like on things like the importance of the winning attitude, right? Trying to help make that cognitive change, right? People walking away from gangs and substance abuse treatment and leadership development. We have a 12-month process for that. But then at the last 6 months, we intensify that. And right here in the state of Nevada, we built out a vocational village inside Nevada Department of Corrections. Inside the prison. And that's where we introduced them to vocational training like HVAC, electrical, plumbing, welding, carpentry, warehouse logistics, and God opened up the door so that we built out a full-scale commercial driver's license school inside the parameters of the fence.
Those are excellent trades.
Oh, absolutely. We didn't do that by mistake. We
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we're training and equipping people and getting them certified so that the minute that they walk out the back door, right, we remember to change of heart, change of mind, they walk out that back door, we can tie that training with employment where they're going to be earning sustainable wages so they can take care of themselves and be able to take care of their family.
If you see where we are, we're at an abandoned facility out here in the Department of Corrections in the state of Nevada, and it's a travesty that we don't utilize this, in time of need. And the intent now is workforce development. So on the advice and support of Jon Ponder, and now with the state, with me being the governor and the Department of Corrections and Director Jim Zorinda, we're going to fill this void with trades. And we're looking at plumbing, HVAC, we're looking at warehousing, logistics, and up on the hill back there where you see an 18-wheeler, we're working on CDL trade. And what's the intent of that? It is to get the folks that are incarcerated that have idle time to learn a skill, and upon exiting the penal system, they have the ability to get a job and be successful. And part of that is a force multiplier on the original intent for Hope for Prisoners. The original Hope for Prisoners was to get you back introduced to society appropriately, become a mother or father, learn some scholastic training, and then now we're going to give you the skill set in the labor force to have a quality of life and make a good living.
We really do believe that helps people not to ever look back, right? They're taking their rightful position, they're taking care of their family, right? Loving on their kids, participating, and now we're helping them to be tremendous assets to the community and not a liability. For many years they've been liabilities, right? Burdens on the taxpayers. But when we can get them in the position where they're earning sustainable wages, then they become the fuel in the economic engine of our community.
So, John, it's amazing because I look at you as being a hope dealer.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Because there are a lot of people out there in the streets dealing drugs. You're dealing hope.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And it has so many benefits. There are no negatives to that.
Absolutely. And Kelly, I don't know if you've ever seen someone who is just completely hopeless.
Oh, I've
right?
seen
We see it all the time in the streets, standing in the corner with the signs, and they're just completely hopeless. And the reason why they're hopeless is because they cannot see their future. But when you can take an individual and pull them up out of that state of complete hopelessness and show them a future, help them to see it, and have faith in the process that right there is obtainable, that's when you find hope in the moment.
See, that's what I love about your Hope for Prisoners program. Because, let's be honest here, we're talking about faith in God. We're talking about Jesus. We're talking about the Bible. And in many circles in the news media today, that's frowned upon.
Right.
Probably because they think it's pie in the sky, it's Pollyanna shit, it's not real, it's not tangible. But you come along with this program, Hope for Prisoners, and then you cement it not only with a faith and a hope and a love, but also with programs that give the people the knowledge they need and the skill sets that they need to hit the ground running. And as you said, having the ability to keep looking forward, to realize that God's plans for them are not disastrous, but for a future and a hope.
Absolutely.
Am I getting it right?
Oh, 100%.
So why can't the rest of the world get with that?
I really wish that the world would be able to see. Remember, Jesus looked at a multitude of people, and the Bible says he had compassion on them.
Wow.
And if we take a look at the men and women that are leaving the prison system, there's a multitude of people. They just need a little bit of compassion. Compassion on them. It broke his heart. That's what my heart breaks sometimes when I see people, even in gangs and addicted to drugs and coming in and out. And it's like you don't have to live that way, right?
That's what happened for you.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And that's what you're doing
100%.
for hundreds of others.
Turn around and give it to other people, Kelly. That's what it's all about.
Passing it on.
Yes.
And watching lives be changed.
Yes.
And renewed. Restored.
Yes.
Redeemed.
Yes.
Reconciled.
Yes. Come on.
And successful.
Yes. Absolutely.
You talked about compassion earlier.
Yes.
Now, we just finished celebrating Christmas, and I wasn't aware that Hope for Prisoners compassionately reached out to people who are still incarcerated so that they could spend Christmas with their loved ones.
Yes. Yes.
How did you do that?
Oh my goodness! We do this project every year, and this past year was called 101 Christmases.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains.
Wow, what an incredible event it has been. 101 Christmases right here at Opportunity Village. And in the 101 Christmases, remember we work with people up to 18 months, right? We took 101 men and women that are currently incarcerated inside Nevada Department of Corrections. We were authorized to put them on buses, and we bussed them over this place called, this incredible nonprofit organization called Opportunity Village. And at Opportunity Village, when they walked in, we had 100 living rooms set up all over the place. I'm talking 100 sofas, 100 love seats, 100 coffee tables, 100 Christmas trees, and we raised money for gifts and everything like that. We set the inmate down on the couch, and then we bussed their family and their children, the caretakers, the significant others, the husbands and wives. And what we do at that, Kelly, is we create this Christmas morning experience for them that they would not normally have because mom and or dad are incarcerated.
What does that do for those families and that person incarcerated?
You know, the huge piece of that, right? And the reason why we want to do it really, really big every time is because I want to be able to create this emotional high in them that they're reconnecting with the family. There's the meal, there's the gifts and all this, so that they will never want to miss that moment again. So that when they do get released, they will never do anything to cross that line to make them ever miss this moment again. The other reason why we do that is because there's a missed marker reentry, and it's the family reunification component. It's like no one's puts the particular close attention needed for that family reunification component, understanding that you know, husbands and wives, they have to get back together, and children. So that's the start of our family reunification component. Yeah, I got a hidden agenda, right? We want to bless you with this and that, yeah, but that gives us an opportunity to put our tentacles into the family.
So essentially, you're making broken families whole.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're giving both parents,
Yes.
regardless of what they've been through, accountability,
Yes.
responsibility,
Absolutely.
and the ability to move forward
Yes.
together
Absolutely.
under one roof,
Absolutely.
which blesses their children
Yes.
so that their children can grow up not to repeat what they've been through,
Right.
that vicious cycle of
Right.
imprisonment,
Yes.
criminal activity,
Yes.
but to break that cycle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because the way we refer to it is that the little eyes are watching.
Yeah.
So they
are.
see this mom and this dad getting up every day, going to work and loving on each other, because we bring the marriage family therapy in there so they can really understand how to love each other, because those little eyes are watching. And children are going to do more of what they see us do as opposed to what it is that we tell them.
Coming from a place where I'm an incarcerated individual, never thought that I'd have this and be able to have this with my family and be in this magical forest. And I just really want to thank Jon Ponders and Hope for Prisoners and all the donors and everyone who's had a hand in making this possible to reunite families and give us this wonderful experience. And I'm just so thankful. And thank you to Hope for Prisoners and Jon Ponders.
I've been locked up for 9 years, and this Christmas I was reunited with my mom here. It's been 9 years I haven't seen her and my sister. They've been spending Christmas without me, and I appreciate Hope for Prisoners and everybody who has donated to Hope for Prisoners, because this is what you guys give to inmates like us, the reunification with our families, and it really means a lot to me.
Thank you, Jon Ponder and the Hope for Prisoners.
What's your hope for America?
You know, my hope for America is that one day we will live in a community that we see each other struggling and have compassion, right? That we will live in an America where we love each other, right? And not to sound all cliche, but we be able to see each other, not for the color of our skin, but the very context of our character. That's what my hope for America is. My hope for America is for my 2 little girls who are 10 and 11 years old, right? My goal as a parent is to do everything that I possibly can to ensure that they're growing up in a world that looks so much different than the one that I grew up in.
Jon, thank you. And God's giving you a second chance, and you're taking it to the bank, right?
Gotta go.
A lot of deposits going on right there. That's going to have a lot of great residuals.
Yes.
Residual blessings.
Amen. Thank you. All right.
All right.
Good deal.
Jon Ponder, on America's Hope.
If you're incarcerated, your opportunities for a launching pad to really be able to learn and find a career, find a vocation, be involved, pretty limited. I mean, there's not many options other than just serve your time and then try to figure it out when it gets close to getting out and find options.
I'm sure that many of us have had family members who made a mistake at a point in their lives, and back in the day there weren't these kind of programs. We all need second chances. We need these individuals in our society. We need them in these jobs that are being created. We need them to be the leadership within their own communities and their own families, and to show the way. We all make mistakes. What's important is how we clear the path for others.
When we are meeting with companies that are interested in relocating and looking at new communities, there are 2 things that they want to know about. One is, will you have enough water for me to have a sustainable business here? And of course we can answer that. The next is, tell me about the workforce. Will I have a pipeline of employees that I can draw from? So we love to be able to answer yes. And Hope for Prisoners, and in particular this new vocational center, are going to be, the answer will be yes with an exclamation mark.
Those intangible elements that we were taught by our forefathers to add value to business. The pool, if you will, in Southern Nevada needs to be enhanced. We believe that the reentry population will serve as a vital source as we continue to grow as a valley. They're coachable, they're teachable. Southern Nevada believes in second chances, and we need to afford these men and women the opportunity to come home and not only have sustainable income, but to attract a good quality of life.
The blessing that the vocational village will be is the fact that we get to take it inside the walls, right? Inside the proverbial fences, and we get to establish a competency and an understanding, and for a large number of men and women, provide them something to look forward to leaving incarceration and come out and be a contributing member of our community from the first moment they walk out of that gate.
I'm really pleased that we're going to be able to partner with him in his vision for a vocational center at the Southern Nevada Correctional Facility. This is just an enhancement that builds on his national model that has proven to be one of the best in the country. And the demand careers span construction, trades, IT, advanced manufacturing, the culinary field. So there's many areas that are going to be targeted through this vocational training program that are going to be addressing gaps where employers simply cannot find qualified applicants. And to be able to partner with Hope for Prisoners at the College of Southern Nevada is a real opportunity for us to bring high-level instruction and for showing that we care about our ex-offender population and providing those pathways.
The vocational work that Hope for Prisoners is doing is not only out-of-the-box thinking and creative, but it's something that's necessary. These folks that are doing their time, getting out, trained, we need to turn them into taxpayers and make sure that they never go back in and become an asset to the employee base that is so needed in this community.
I can't even imagine a more inspirational project to want to be involved in, professionally or personally, the concept of investing in our community through reskilling, retraining, learning new life skills, focusing on family bonds and the responsibility of family, and then turning that investment into the workforce of tomorrow. It's one of the most powerful nonprofits I think we have in Southern Nevada.
What an incredible program to hear the story of Hope for Prisoners told through the eyes of its founder, Jon Ponder. Jon, thank you for all that you do. I can see that there's more hope coming out of Las Vegas, and that is a story that should never stay in Vegas, but go all around the world. The bottom line is this. There's a scripture that says, "For my plans for you are not for disaster, but for a future and a hope." And certainly we've seen tonight through the inspirational stories of men and women who had been formerly incarcerated and now liberated to live their best lives now. Wherever you are, America, always give people a second chance to be the best that they can be. Until next time, America, good night. God bless.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I want the world to know. This little light of mine, I gotta let it flow. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great. So happy to tell you that I am saved. I'm born again, delivered from sin. I'm living with the joy and the peace within. And this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.